Welcome to Repeat the Question, and I'm breaking format for this episode just to discuss in general the singles ultimate Schmoedown tournament. However, before looking at the larger picture, let's look at the last two matches that bring us to the finale match. The first being Levine versus Rachel Cushing, with Levine taking the win with only some minor errors by Rachel Cushing to give him that victory. No major fault on her part, and Levine was certainly on point, more on point than he has been in most other matches. Although what that means exactly, I'll get into more later. Following that, we had Mike Kalinowski getting defeated by JTE. This was again Team's JTE, who is still on his winning streak, as he successfully defeated Mike with no major problems, though a few ridiculous conveniences. Now it is there where we should look at the tournament as a whole, which I think speaks to the amount of upsets we had throughout. They really haven't been about players underperforming for the most part. At least that's not why they're losing. The more I think about the whole tournament, the more I started to see a pattern with the nature of the game in singles ever since the low-scoring Harloff versus Merle match, which is more old Schmoedown in terms of the question difficulties and the general balance there. There seems to be a new Schmoedown. By that I mean the questions for the most part are easier in general, particularly in round 2 and 3 for the most part. Round 1 is obviously where it is really determined the individual strength of a player. The rest of the time, though, there's a lot more luck here, more so than there usually is in the game. To explain this further, it is in terms of the real difficulty of most questions have been pretty easy. The last match with JT, he had that second Bad Boys question, which was a mind-numbingly easy. If you'd only seen a TV spot or saw a poster slightly one time, you'd know the answer to that question, or you just kind of exist in America in general. The Kevin Smith round was ridiculous. I got every question with ease, and I've only seen a single Kevin Smith movie. That shows you how general they were. Sam Levine's David Fincher's questions, though, were equally easy, I'd say. Now, one can argue this comes from how long categories have been around, which is a ridiculous excuse, frankly. Level difficulty should be maintained from the start of a category if possible. What I'm trying to get to, though, is the questions in general, which have become easier, it seems, to level the playing field. As generally difficult questions would benefit a Roca, a Bibiani, but having most of the questions fairly easy with just a few random tough ones thrown in can make it so the lower level players can easily upset the stronger player, since they both can get just kind of easy questions throughout, but then the better player just gets the really hard ones a couple of times, and that's what makes them lose. This is where the upsets have come from, where in the past they usually came from a stray 5-pointer. Now it's down to bad luck of getting the harder question just sort of anywhere in the round. Now I say this from a place of absolute love for the Schmoedown. However, I hope they will return to the tougher competition we had before with a greater consistency in question difficulty, where in general the questions were a little harder for the most part with even harder questions. But here it's mostly easy with those hard ones randomly thrown in just on occasion. For example, just pet peeve is, for example, in the 5-pointer, should never have multiple answers. Also, this needs to be noted. JT only needs to answer a single product placement from Wayne's World. That's a ridiculous question. But again, it shows the ease of most 5-pointers these days that have changed the dynamic. I prefer a return to the old dynamic that is more dependent on knowledge overall than the luck of the draw of who gets the random hard question. With that in mind, let's look at the double finale of Above the Line against Team Action and Levine versus JT. A double duty for Sam Levine now with this new tendency in mind. The playing field is leveled with Team Action probably going to put up a fight. I have to predict Above the Line through the old logic, however. They will be helped, as Team Action will be helped, though, with things like that ridiculous Green Goblin question that helped them against top 10 in their own match just before the finales. Above the Line has a far more consistent play, though. However, they still need Action to get a few of those hard random questions. While Above the Line should be able to handle them with the double brains of Levine and McWeeny, who are a team that really do cover their weaknesses pretty well, particularly in terms of the general spirit of their play. McWeeny, one by himself, will kind of default to not answering, where Levine seems to push him to make sure they get an answer out, which is a good thing for both players. Again, Levine alone, though, has greater weaknesses that could lead to a loss against JT, especially since JTD has a better experience with championship rules. Most of the easy questions benefits both, but JT gets a boost if there is likely to be a more obscure question in the categories that are more likely to come up that benefit JT, like a weird Stallone question he'll get. That is, and again, his experience with the speed round will probably lead to a win for him. Levine could still win, however, given the nature of the game currently. Say Levine really just gets those generally easy questions throughout, and JT is the one who just gets, just like his 5-pointers really hard, or one of his 2 punters really hard, and Sam Levine could take the win. That is Repeat the Question for this week. Thank you for listening.